Okay. Welcome everyone to the sunflower drawing. My name is Anita Thompson for those that are new. This drawing tonight is sponsored by Feasterville Library. Chrissy Gumina picked this drawing and I'm so happy she did. I think a lot of people like sunflowers. It is a challenging drawing, but step by step, we're going to do it. And as I always say, it doesn't have to look exactly like mine. If you have extra leaves or you miss some leaves, that's okay. You know, as long as it looks sunflower-like, I think it will be good. So let's get started. I don't know if, Chrissy, you wanted to say anything about the library. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't know if you have any announcements or...
I know. Well, we have, you guys probably already know, but we have, or maybe not, but we do have Anita booked for October and November right now.
Yes.
I believe I put them all on the calendar, didn't I?
I think so. I think I put
Yeah.
them, yeah, I have them in my
Yes.
I
The
don't have
next
November yet.
autumn lantern painting on October 23rd. That's a Thursday at
Yep.
6:30. And then
Hmm.
we have the well, where's the other one?
Was that the mouse and walnut for November? Or wait, I might be thinking of
Guys. Oh my gosh, what did I pick? Oh my gosh, I can't even think of. Oh, colored pencil pumpkin pie is on Wednesday, November
Ah, yes.
15th, but I do want to do the squirrels.
Yes, yes. So you guys can go to the Feasterville Library, sign up for that. I don't have that included yet in my newsletter because I do it month by month. I was actually going to try to do November since I'm away for a lot of October. So I might actually list that in Monday's one. So look out for that. If not, you know, go right to Feasterville Library, the website for Feasterville Library. Hi, Tony. Welcome. Okay, I'm going to copy this one more time for Tony. Hello. Okay. All right, we're going to get started. And Tony, I just copied in the chat the information for tonight. It's real simple: paper, pencil, and a brown colored pencil. Okay, so we are going to get started here first in pencil. Great. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a basic outside shape for the side of the sunflower here. Okay, so we're going to make sure we leave room for the stem and also the leaves on the side, but we're not going to draw those yet because that's too confusing. And the way I handled this one was I did make this up. So basically what I did was I started off over here. And what we have is the center of the sunflower is an oval shape. And then the back of a sunflower is actually kind of this shape. So you have an oval, and then you've got this shape, which is really the part of the green leaves that are holding the brown part together in the center of the sunflower. I don't have an official name for what that's called, but if anybody knows it, let me know. Okay, so we're starting off here towards the bottom left corner of our sunflower. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're around this side because we want to make sure that we have the stem over here. So very lightly, you're just going to draw out sort of a big oval shape. Now, this oval shape is going to be part of the center, and it kind of is going to look like an egg. Now, you want to make sure that it's very light. Mine is darker so that you can see it on Zoom. And I'm going to split this just a little bit here. So we're going to be able to erase what we need to erase. That way, that's why I always ask, you know, to do it lighter, because this is just serving as our shape. And then once we do that, we're now going to create the stem, and we're going to have it be toward the back end of our oval. Here again, if you need to move it, it's okay because we are lightly adding it in here. I'm going to make mine a little bit more off to the center here. Okay. And so we're also going to add in the other stem here that is holding up the back of the sunflower. And so first, though, we're going to start drawing the leaves. But we want to kind of put in this shape about where it would be. And so if we're looking at the left side of our paper, we're going to start there with where it's going to be and create that sort of shape. And we've now left room for the other leaves, and I'll let everybody get caught up. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to continue with these parts of the leaves. So these are leaves that are coming into kind of envelop the sunflower from this side. So we're going to start here, and we're going to create the first leaf, and that is this one right here. So we're going to create the shape to be more, it's going to kind of spread out, and then because it's coming from this side, it gets a little thinner. You can also draw in the center the separation. Now, we're not going to worry right now too much about the exact shape. We will go back later on and make sure that that shape looks more like what it looks like here. We just want to get in all of the petals. And so we started with this one, and now we can create this leaf, this hardy leaf that's kind of coming off to the side and disappearing on the left. So here again, we're not going to do any shading. We're just going to do a basic shape, an outside shape of what it looks like. I'm going to make it darker so you can see it. And I'm going to point to it. And we're going to be working downward from here. So we just drew this shape here. And we have another part of that portion of the sunflower. So it kind of looks like a sort of like a tulip. So again, it's not the exact shape, but it's close enough. We just want to get it in there. And as you're drawing these shapes, you want to be sure to erase the lines that are inside so that that shape is now coming forward and it makes sense to you. Okay, so now we have another leaf here. This is a leaf. And so we're going to go around the side here, and then it's going to curve inward towards our sunflower. And right behind it is this curled up leaf. And so, or petal, sorry. Not a leaf, a petal. And so we're going to make that curled up. Again, you know, you can fix it later If it's too curled or not curled enough, we just want to get that shape in. We have another leaf section here that we're just going to show by creating 2 lines because it's going to get intersected by the start of a petal, which is right here. And we have another small petal coming out from here. So here's where my pencil is and where we want to draw that. And you can draw the portion of it that's kind of flopping over. That's why it looks like this. That's kind of the center of it. It'll look much more like a sunflower once we start shading. So again, that was this shape here. So we're building up the sunflower from this side. And we're going to jump back up toward the top again, where we started off with this one. We're going to start to build on that. And so our next petal goes underneath and upward. So we're going to pretend this one doesn't exist yet. We're going to look at this one. So again, it would go up and here. So up, it bends and goes forward. We're going to come back to this shape. And we're going to go up. And it opens up. And this is the opening part. And you can draw it like that for now. There will be other petals near it. And so we will adjust it. But that's that shape. And now we're going to have the one that's curling around over it. So we come back again to this shape right here. See, it starts here. So here's that shape. This is what we just drew. And now we're going to go behind it. Over. And then we're going to draw this inside line so that we see that it acts almost like a bridge for space here. Thanks, Beth. Absolutely. Yeah, this one's a difficult one. This one is literally step by step. So now we're having this curl around and come to a point. And remember, you want to erase any lines in the middle that don't make sense anymore because you've now created a flipped over petal. This is the underneath, and this is the flipped over petal. I'll let everybody catch up. Okay, we're going to go back now to this section. So section by section. Oh, you know what? Let's get this little guy. Let's get this little guy right here. Now it's shorter because it's in the distance. Okay, and it's already should be starting to look like a sunflower. And we're gonna start now back over here, and we're gonna create this small petal here. It's shaped kind of like a teardrop shape, but on top of it, kind of right next to it, we're gonna have another petal that is flipped over. And it's a bit teardrop shaped on this side. So I will show that again. So it's kind of like teardrop here. It flips over and is pointy. And if you want, you can add the little line in between to make it look more like a petal. And that's all coming from this section here. Okay, so we're going to go to this petal now. And I promise this will get faster once we draw in the initial steps. And then we can go over this in brown and do the shading. It's going to look wonderful. All right, here's another petal shape. And it is also flipped over. So that's also why everything kind of looks mind bending, because these petals are flipped over. And this one is right underneath this next one. So you're drawing the outside of it, but this is the inside of it. I'm going to shade that just a little bit so you can see. And then this is the next petal shape. This is the outside of the shape. So all of this, and then we make it three-dimensional by adding the petal turning. Now we're going to start going down here. So we're going to start first with this big petal here. So we're going to start going downward, and we start about right here. And again, this is the outside of the shape. This one here. And in the meantime, we're going to create our big leaves down here. So we'll take a break from the sunflower petals, and we're going to create our big leaves, which are down here. And here again, I'm doing the shape of them. The outside shape. Make this one a little thicker here. It's kind of trailing off to the corner. and it is flipped over. So this is the other part. We can adjust that later, but that's about the shape. This is one whole leaf right here. This is the center of it, the open part of it. And again, we'll make it look more realistic later on. But for now, we just want to get the shapes in. So now that we added this petal here, we want to make sure to erase the lines in the center so that now it's in front of our sunflower. This is drooping behind our leaf. And we can create another line so that it now looks like it's flipped over. And when you do that, you'll have to change the shape inside just a little bit by making this top part a little more round. And we're going to start filling it in with 1, 2, 3 big leaves, big petals. I know I'm going to keep saying petals and leaves, sorry. So we have this smaller one. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger. I'm going to move my stem back a little bit. Since this leaf is in front of the stem here. So remember, you can do that too. I mean, it's not crucial. It doesn't look strange if it's up front, but this is why we draw everything lightly so that we can, move things a bit if needed. Right, so that's that one here. And I'm going to make this petal a little bit larger on the edge to match my original a little more. And then we're going to add first big petal here. Another one behind it. And you may have to adjust the shape to get the other one to fit. See, this is the one behind right here. And it's curling over a bit. There we go. Okay. So we're going to keep moving here. We now can start to place this center a little more closer. So we did an overall oval shape, but the center, sorry. Sorry about that. Looks like I got a phone call. So the center here, we're going to come up first and create this long one, or large one, I should say. So we start here and we're going to curve it. Okay, that's this shape here. Of that petal. And we started off with these petals here. And we're going to come back to those now that we have all these little ones and this one. Just let everybody get caught up. So we're going to go right above these two petals here. I'm going to go in a little closer too. So remember, we drew these two petals. We have another smaller petal right here. And then we're finally going to have a big petal in front of that. So it's going to be shaped like this. It's kind of turned over. Like so. And then we're going to finally draw in a bit of our circular part of the sunflower. Your circular part should be a little bit closer to the left. If you followed, then I made this sort of big oval-like shape. So might have to go over a bit. See, there are the old lines of mine. So it all depends where you drew it. But basically, you should be having this petal should be going past the center. So I actually have to make mine just a little bit longer here because it's not going past enough. So that's a good way to tell. There we go. There's our center. And we're going to start now finishing up the leaves here on the right side. All right, remember, this is our center. So we're going to come back up here. And we're going to draw another petal that's a little bit shorter than the one next to it on the left. And we have one that's coming out a little more straight. And it ends up right here. So remember, we drew this part here. This is the one I'm talking about. It ends up there. We just drew this one, and then we have one right in the middle. It goes like that. Make that darker so you can see it. And we're getting around. And so now we just have to fill in this section right here. So we're just going to continue going petal by petal, but we're going to start off with these big ones down here, and then we'll worry about the ones behind it. So meaning, here's the first big one. It's going to come over here. And this one is a nice full one, and it always ends at a point. And then when it goes back to the flower, it gets really thin, like this. And so that's what you're going to have. They start coming from the center, and then they kind of billow out. So what you're seeing is, here's this one behind here, right? So we've got this one that's peeking out from behind here. So you have to kind of pretend like, here we go. This is going this way. It's at a point, and then it curves. And then I can just erase that line. If that makes it easier for you to think about that, that petal is behind. Yep, peekaboo. I love it, Michael. Exactly. It's a peekaboo. And that's what you're going to have. So we're going to go to the next one here. And again, starts in the center, goes on top of the other one a bit. And with that, we have one right next to it that does the same. So what I just did was I just drew two. Because again, yep, they play peekaboo. So these two. Now we have a little bit more of a leaf area here that is hanging down. That's this section here. And it's going to go into this leaf. So we start off with a curve on the right. And a curve right here with the center of that leaf looking like this. And it's flipped over as well. And I have to kind of draw it on top of the leaf that we did before. So here again, it's why we do things lightly. That's this whole section here. It's kind of curling under the plant. I'll let everybody get caught up. Then we'll finish off here on the right. We're almost there. Petal by petal, leaf by leaf. So these were the last two petals that we drew. Okay. So we have another one back here and one here. And then we've already drawn this one. And we have a stem happening here. We have a few others, but let's start off now with this petal and this petal. So we start off here. This petal is behind this one, and this is the middle of it. See that line there? And then we're going to make the pointed part of it. And add the petal next to it. And we have a stem behind there. So we have two lines right here leading. And I'm gonna shade this so you can see it. Part of the stem, another part of the stem into the leaf. And then we have two more petals back here that are, you can just see a little bit of the tips. Here's one, here's two. I love it. All right, now we just have some filler ones and we're finished with the drawing portion. So we come back over here. So here we are. There's this one. We did the big one. We're going to add a curved part to that big one. And we'll go back and add more to the other ones later as well. But here's this one here. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I should probably do it this way. 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait, where was the fifth one? Oh, this one, this little one. So we'll start up here first. And we're going to make pointed one that is coming out of this next one. I'm going to angle my petal a little bit. This stem, yes, this one down here. Yes, this is disappearing and coming down here. Absolutely. Probably should have mentioned that. Yep. I made this one a little thick. Yes, so this is disappearing behind the leaves. Thank you for pointing that out, Beth. And then coming down here. You got it. I'm just fussing with this petal here a little bit. We drew this one. And then we have one more big one behind it. I'm going to make this petal a little bigger. because mine is a little short. And then we've got 1, 2, 3. We've got 3 little ones, one here, one peeking out here. And then finally, the last one that is peeking out between this one and this one. With a teardrop shape. And you just drew yourself a sunflower. And now we get to shade it and lighten up our pencil marks so that we can recopy it in brown and shade it and create texture in the middle. It sounds daunting, I know, but this part actually goes fast. So when you are ready, you want to lighten up your pencil, because we are now going to use our brown colored pencil to retrace and start to shade. So take your time and lighten up your pencil. Oh, there's Michael.
What did he say when you told him that?
Michael. So we're just taking our time and lightening up our pencil. We are about to start with our brown colored pencil. And so the first thing we're going to do is actually, we're going to now outline everything with our brown colored pencil, because the shading happens inside. So right now we are going over our lines using our brown. So that means we are tracing on the outside of each of the petals. The stem or stems. And so when I say we're tracing on the outside, so literally the shape, the outside shape of each petal, because we want to be able to adjust as we retrace in the middle of each petal, because some are a bit lighter. But there are hard lines around just about everything. The other thing you can do is, as you are retracing, I like to go back and erase my my pencil marks. If you're not sure about a line, go lightly. Instead of dark, because we can always go back and make it darker, but it's harder to go back and make it lighter. Not impossible, but a little harder to erase. So again, what we're doing right now is we are now just retracing everything in brown. And when you're finished, you can then erase away your pencil marks. You can also do an outline of the center of your sunflower like this, even though we're going to add texture to it.
What color are you using now? Black?
This is brown. It looks really dark on here. I'm realizing that. Yeah, this is brown. The outline does look really dark. Once we shade, you'll be able to see, hopefully, that it's brown. But I agree. Now that I'm looking at it online, it looks black, but this is brown. So what I'm doing now is I'm just erasing some of the pencil. I'm leaving some of the pencil marks that we haven't added brown to yet. So I'm kind of gingerly going around, mostly erasing around the edges of each of the petals because I can still see my pencil marks. The other ones, it's not too bad because we will be shading. So if you don't want to erase, if you're afraid of erasing marks that, you know, you think when you go back, you won't remember what they are, even though I'll show you. You don't have to erase all of the pencil. Dr. Kate. Huh. Okay. We're going to start with the shading. The first thing we're going to do is the center of the sunflower. And so what we want to do first is just lightly shade using the side of our brown colored pencil. we're going to shade a layer of some colored pencil. And then we're going to draw round spots on it, sort of bumpy texture. So it should be very light. And then we're going to start adding, it's going to look like bubbles on top of each other. I'm going to go really close so you can see. And you're going to fill up this space with this texture. It's almost like scales, tiny little scales.
So you're making a little scallop mark?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And the other thing you want to do is you want to make some scallop marks along the edge, the outer edge of the sunflower. Of the center. Like I went another layer and did that edge scalloped. And we're going to start adding some spots of shading on top of it so that it's darker in some sections. So for instance, here was a spot that I just added some shading. And not only do I add the shading to the actual round part, but I also make the outline to the circular areas a little darker. And so I just take clumps, but especially right along the edge of the sunflower. You can see that I'm kind of coloring it in a little real quickly, and then also re-outlining some of the circular shapes. So this is along the outside edge of the sunflower middle. And then I go inward a bit where the petal here is hanging over, because it would be a little darker here and kind of behind it. Right, you want to make it look bumpy. And then we're going to be making very wispy lines for each of the petals and the leaves. And we'll start doing that in a minute. Give everybody time to catch up. And I'm just going to adjust my camera one more time. Okay, so we're going to start with creating some wispy lines. So for instance, we're going to start off right here on the stem. And so the lines that we're going to make are sort of like hatching. And I've mentioned hatching to a lot of you on here, but for those that don't know what hatching is, so it's taking your pencil and creating single strokes that together next to each other look like shading. And then when we want to make it darker, we add cross hatching, which is literally going the other way, right? And if I build that up, it's shading, but it's got some texture to it. So we're going to use that on a lot of parts of the sunflower. A little bit up here, see where the stem is, but then we do a little bit of shading. With the back of the leaves here, or the back of the leaf parts here. So let's get started on the stem. So first, just kind of shading it a layer up top and then going down a little bit down the right side, but getting a little thinner as you shade. And there's a little line kind of in the middle of that as well. I'm going to go closer. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start to get a little darker and I'm going to cross hatch in this section. So it would be darker towards where the flower is because it would, you know, it's kind of underneath the petals. Okay. We have a part over here that is a little darker, so we're going to shade that darker. It's in between the petals. We're going to go back up to the stem, the other stem, and the part that's holding the flower, and then this part here, but let's go here. So we create a line this way because it's part of the structure here and here. And then we're going to shade on the bottom portion of it. Just a light shading here. And close to where the petals are going to start. And in the part that is sort of the area that's not shaded yet, we're going to go into the shaded area and we're going to add some hatching like this. I'm showing that up close just so you can see that shading. So see what that is showing, that it's darker towards underneath the flower. And then as it's going down, it's a little bit lighter. We're going to do the same thing to the one next to it. It's going to get a little darker shading at the bottom. And we're going to draw the petal line, or the leaf line. This is actually a leaf. And then we shade on this side. So I'll wait for everyone to catch up before we add a little more texture on this leaf as well. So we see a bit of the underside of the leaf, which is the shaded part we just did. Then we create a light center line here that I just drew. And then we add some light shading first going this way on the one side, and then on the other side of the leaf, just a few, kind of a few shaded lines, but going up and down. And then we're going to start shading the rest of these. So this small one gets some shading closer to where it's hitting this petal. So usually it's a little bit darker shading, and this isn't, this is just literally shading, not doing any hatching for these parts. We're going to shade each section toward the bottom. So I just did this, this, and this one. This, and this one. Remember this tulip shape? So each section of the tulip shape has a little bit of a shape that you can kind of add some light lines to, almost like it's in sections. And then we add a little bit of hatching over the whole thing in each section. Now this whole part is underneath the sunflower. And so we first make 2 curved lines at the edge of it. And then we're going to shade the whole section very lightly. And then we're going to cross hatch, but over here, it's going to be a lot darker. And then I turn into cross hatching. We're going to go back to this little petal back here. We're going to lightly shade over the whole thing, just really light. Then when we create this curved part, because it's flipped over, we're going to create a curved line, and then we're going to shade inside of that a bit darker. I did color over the circles on the sunflower face, Renee. Yes. Yeah. So what I did was first, we did a light shading. Then we created the circles. And then in a few sections, especially towards the outside edge, I shaded in. Very good question. So now with our petals, we want them to read as petals. And so we use really light lines in order to do that. And then we shade in the darker parts. So the really light lines are going to read as if the petal is, I don't want to say wilting, because our sunflower is a healthy sunflower, but the petal is kind of flopping over. And so there's a texture involved with that. It's like a silkiness. So we're trying to have that come across. And so we use lighter lines. So for instance, let's go and do that first. So we're going to come up to this one here, and we're going to create a lighter line in the middle. And right next to it, this one here, we create another light line. The same next to that one. Next one. And some of your lines are going to curve in the shape that your petal is going. So there's one. This one, we're actually going to shade on the one side because it's the underside, and then we're going to add a light line on the white side of it. And that should change the whole dimension of that particular petal. We're going to keep going. Here's our next petal. Again, we have the line coming a bit in the center, a light line. So what we're going to do is we're doing the light lines first, and then we're going to go back and do some more shading. Here's this one. light line. This one we actually shade. We shade this one too, but we shade it with lines coming from the back, and then it gets lighter as it gets to the tip, so we don't really do any shading there. Okay, we're working our way around. Here we are at the big one. Shaded line, and we're actually going to now start creating more than one shaded line. So we have 1, 2, and we'll do 2 other ones. This one, we have 2 darker lines. And then we have some wispy lines right around it. So 1, 2, maybe 3, 4, 5, all coming from the center there. The one behind it is again shaded right close to the bottom part of it. Gets a little lighter as it gets to the point. This one is actually shaded. And we can draw a few of those lines, the lighter lines on top of it. Give it some texture. We're working our way around. This one, here's a little bit of a darker line here, but then the other lines are a little lighter. The one behind it, there's a curved line coming out like this. And down here, like this. And then we're going to shade this whole section. We're going to shade another smaller sunflower petal here. We're going to add a curve here so that this is becomes another section of sunflower and shade that. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to shade right underneath this because this is a portion of the other stem. So you're going to shade this part and then you're going to continue down here and shade this part a little darker at the top and have it get a little lighter shading as it goes down the stem. We're going to pay a little bit of attention to these two bottom leaves, and then we'll go back and finish off the petals. So we're going to draw in some light lines with these leaves. We're going to draw in the veins, starting with this one here, curved line in the middle, and that's going to continue like this. That's the middle vein. And then we're going to have some light drawings of veins coming from that are more of lines that are crossing over one another and coming from this center portion. So some of the veins are a little bit darker, and then from those, it's almost like tree branches. We create little lines from that. We're going to add some shading to the big area of the leaf here on the left side, just using shading. I like to get a little darker right up against the vein. You see that I'm using my colored pencil just to get a little bit darker shading to emphasize that. And then I just add a little bit of shading on the other side of the vein. And a little bit of just some really light straight hatching on this side of the leaf. And we're going to go to the next one. Same thing, we create a center vein. We're going to create another shape of that leaf because it's turning, it's kind of folding inward a little bit. So here's this shape, it's curvy. And we're going to make another vein. We're going to shade a bit darker coming from the back here. And this time we're doing some kind of straight hatching and then curving hatching around this section of the leaf to make it look like it's curving. And finally, we're going to make some really light lines coming from the center line here. And then we'll shade on top of them. so that we get a little texture. I'm just erasing away some of my pencil. And then we're about to finish our petals. We started making, light wavy lines around most of them, but we're going to finish up making some, the rest over here. And then our final part will just be adding some shading. So join me at this petal, and we're going to make a line over here. And the one next to it, we're going to make sort of two lines. And we're going to shade that in the middle. In the big, inside of the veins and the big leaves. So these, not on the vein, on the sides of the vein. So like, do you see where I shaded here? And then here, I kind of shade around it so that the vein is kind of popping out. And the same here as well. See that? You kind of shade. Yep, you're welcome. Yeah, because basically, if you think about veins in leaves, the darker part is shaded next to it. Take a look next time at a really thick, especially we have somebody who has like 4 sunflowers, and they're huge, and it's amazing how sturdy and thick the stems are. But when you look at the leaves, they're also very thick, and those veins like pop out. I mean, they're what am I trying to say? Like, they're not flat. They're very I don't know, viscous isn't the word. They're just they're hardy. And so the rest of the leaf is a little more flat. So it would be darker, more in shadow. Okay, so we're coming over here to this one, and we're going to make 2 light lines. And then on the inside, we do a little bit of shading, but leave the end of it a bit of the white. We go to the next one, and we're making this curve again because it's the inside of the sunflower petal. And then we do a little bit of shading to show that it's the inside. This one is the same way, except that we create 2 shaded lines. And we're going to come up here. And we're going to make this line darker because it is the flipped over part of the petal. And then we shade almost like a triangular shape in the middle. Now this next leaf, You kind of go in the middle and make a little bit of a darker shade for the center of that petal. And then we shade on top of it, staying closer to the edge. Now we're going to get to this one here and make it darker in the center. And then we're going to shade this whole thing with a little bit of darkness on the inside and right where it's up against this next part. Now for our final shaded parts, we have these few left before we just add some last minute shading. So here again, we make the center lines in 1, 2, 3. This one right there. And then we add a quick shading toward the inside of the petals. Now we're just going to add a little bit of darker areas in between these 4 petals. So we're going to come here and shade a little darker. So you stay toward where it's coming out of the flower. So it would be a little bit darker. You're going to go behind here, shade a little bit darker. Right here. So basically in the centers of where the petals are starting to turn, you can shade a little bit darker. And you also want to add some shading using quick lines on top of each petal, starting at the bottom of the petal, and then just adding them as it's moving upward, but leave the ends of each petal unshaded. So see how I'm just going on each one, doing a little more shading right where, you know, it starts from the flower center, and then leaving the edges the white of the paper. I'm going to remove my spotlight. And if you want to now turn to speaker, or I'm sorry, not speaker view, gallery view. And if you want to show yours, I'm actually also going to stop the recording before we do that. So let me stop the recording. Oops, where is my stopping the recording? Oops, hold on. Stop recording.